This is the geometry Newton uses in proposition 3.4. This is the Earth. This is the satellite, Earth skimming satellite in orbit very close to the surface of the Earth, neglecting air resistance, air friction, of course. And this is the Moon, 60 R distance, 60 Earth radii distance away. So Newton assumes that Earth-Moon system obeys Kepler's rule. So this is given already, that this is obeys Kepler's rule, and we can compute knowing the radius of the Earth, distance to the Moon, and Earth's radius. We can compute t by using Kepler's rule simply Kepler's rule with r and t alone. So we don't need Newtonian force or gravity or pulling and pushing or attraction or satellites flying away on rectilinear lines and supernatural forces pulling the satellites and the Moon. So this is all the fictional fairy tale Newton writes about Kepler's rule. That is only r and t. So we know Newton assumes that Earth-Moon system obey Kepler's rule because he says if the periodic times vary as the 3.5 power of the radii, right? Kepler's rule. So even if he says this in another proposition, he doesn't say it explicitly here, but implicitly he assumes this. So we have Kepler's rule, we apply Kepler's rule simply, and we compute t. But Kepler's rule is not enough for Newton. He wants to use his supernatural cause, he calls force, to keep the satellite in orbit and the Moon in orbit. The same supernatural cause he calls force keeps the Moon in orbit. So Newton pretends here to prove that his supernatural cause that holds the satellite in orbit also holds the Moon in orbit. And from this, we need to understand that the whole world is Newtonian and dynamical. But Kepler's rule says that this system is not dynamical, but kinematic. So this reasoning is not scientific. We no longer explain natural phenomena like orbits with supernatural causes. So force is a supernatural cause, just the same as God is a supernatural cause. Instead of force, we can use God. So Newton might have said God keeps the satellite in orbit and Moon in orbit. And Newton says in several places in the Principia that God makes the solar system works. Why can we say that God, instead of force, we can use God? Because force is not used in the formulas to compute t. No force terms are used. So we can say God holds in orbit, but we don't have to use God in Kepler's rule. So Newton's authority is mythical. So Newton's followers take Newton's word, but not the formula used by Newton. The formula is really simple, nothing else here, nothing complicated here. We have the unit radius, unit period, and then we know r, and we solve for t. That's it. T, 27 days, and Kepler's rule is confirmed. Again, the supernatural cause, Newton calls force, is not represented in formulas. There are no force terms here. used to compute orbit. So Newton verbally, by authority, Newton argues by authority, by his authority. He says, I'm using a supernatural cause to compute orbit. Then he uses Kepler's rule with no force terms in it. So this is really sophistry, mathematical sophistry, and it's a fraud. Newton has something to hide. So he's an occultist. He uses supernatural causes to explain natural phenomena. You can just use Kepler's rule to compute T. So Newton is lying. I don't know what else to say.